approximately 9.7 feet. And that is new territory. This particular flood wall has not seen that level. The 10.5 record was in the 73 flood, and of course that was a whole different seawall at that time. Consequently, we're finding a few things out as a result of that, how things work, and that you don't find when it's only 7.7, that you do find when it's 9.7, obviously creating a lot more issues there. The unprotected side of the wall is pretty well inundated. There are those who had some levees or temporary berms and levees built that are continuing to work, and hopefully that'll at least allow them to get back into business quicker. But those temporary measures are going to be under a tremendous amount of strain for the next several weeks, I would say. If the river does crest this weekend, which is certainly what we expect, I think we still could be in for some high water for quite some time, because until we get back down in the 7-foot range, there's really not much they'll be able to do. We will, of course, we do anticipate being able to open gates prior to that, as just as the gates closed on the way up, we can certainly open gates on the way down. But there's going to be obviously a lot of work to be done, and we can only do that when we have some confidence on where the water is going to go. We started, I believe, I think our first meeting we held in this room was May 3rd, when we discussed with the industry what the expectations were. At that time, the river was expected to crest at 8. Within that same week, and actually later that day, we went from 8 to 9.5, an updated crest. And by the end of that same week, it was 12 or 13. So it was truly a scramble in accommodating those plans. I don't want to trivialize it, but at 8 foot, it's almost an inconvenience. Yeah, we've got to close a few gates, and they're certainly going to impact some businesses, but it's things that you kind of work around. 9.5 meant all the gates were closed, so it changed it quite a bit. 12 or 13 meant they were all underwater. So obviously it was a big adjustment in our plans, and certainly put more of a concern for what it might mean on the backwater flooding. I believe it was probably Thursday of that week, Mike and Carl and I and Lori met and kind of laid out our strategy for raising our backwater protection, since that was our major concern. Based on what we understood from the Corps at that particular time, we were expecting an elevation of about 6 in the lake, and I think the quote was 6 to 6.5, and felt like, okay, well, we'll take everything that's at, well, we started at 6 foot, but we ended up saying, okay, we'll take everything that approaches 7 foot and raise it. What that caused, I guess, or what we were with that set in place, is 20,000 feet of sandbags, either sandbags or HESCOs, and another 5,000 feet of aqua dams had to be placed in order to provide us with the protection on the backwater side. That's nearly, I guess that's approaching 5 miles. It's certainly better than 4 miles of levees to raise. Once that was complete, I felt very comfortable with the level that we had achieved, the level of protection that we had achieved. And today, based on what's going on out there, I really don't believe at this time that the water will reach those sandbags. I think we'll be able to keep the water within the existing levee system. Time will tell. One of the contributors to that, without any doubt, and in our plans when we set this level of protection, we knew that a key component to our overall protection strategy was going to be the blockage of Bayou Chene. But of course, at that time, we didn't know, one, whether that was going to happen, and number two, how effective it would be in the long haul. And it's not a lack of confidence in the people that were working on that, because I have all the confidence in the world of them both then and now. But I felt like for the community, we had to plan, just in case. It's amazing that, to me, the lake level is now somewhere between 4 to 5 inches lower than the early May time frame. So without a doubt, that project has been successful. And I know there was some concern expressed over some failure of sheet pile and so forth, but the St. Mary Levee District and the crew that have been addressing that particular project have addressed every challenge that they've been faced with to date, and they've addressed it successfully. And there are battles that they are continuing. I mean, it's an ongoing issue because they're moving water, and in moving water, it's affecting other areas, and some things that are anticipated and some that probably were not anticipated. So it's been a moving target for them, but they've been able to address each one of those. I said earlier about the importance of the manpower which we had. I do want to report to you, City Council, about how really proud I am of the city crews. That after that Thursday meeting, I think we decided that we needed to start filling sandbags, and we authorized overtime on that day. That was the Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, I went out and met with the crew out at the sandbagging site. I think we had 16 people out there. Friday night they worked till 2 a.m. Saturday, and most of them showed up again at 7 a.m. on Saturday to start working again. I cautioned them at that time. I said, "Look, guys, y'all need to. This is going to be a long haul. You need to, pace yourself. We got a lot of work to do. We're going to have to do it over a quick time period." But it just shows their commitment. They, when I went out and explained to them what we were facing and what the potential was, there was never any hesitance on their part to tackle the work that needed to be done. And we ordered the HESCO baskets, and we ordered the National Guard support. That started coming in that Saturday, but in the meantime, as I said, the city crews worked that whole weekend in preparing. If memory serves me correctly, it might have been Mother's Day weekend, I believe, but they really worked hard that weekend in preparing for everything else that needed to be done. Then I think we had 27 National Guardsmen show up on that Sunday evening. We accommodated them Saturday night. Mike and Carl met the truck. I think they got here finally at 9:30 p.m. on Saturday night with an initial 13,000 feet of HESCO baskets. So we had to unload that and get that ready to go. And Monday morning they hit the ground running, and it's been amazing the amount of work that they have been able to do. Of course, over the course of those couple-of-week period, that number grew to probably 250 National Guardsmen that we're housing and feeding and taking care of, and then some of those are obviously were assigned to Amelia and began working there. In addition to that, as the water level rose, we of course had our gate closures. We're up to 22 gates now. We don't anticipate the need to close anymore. That should be sufficient to cover the elevation that we've had. We've also provided sandbags to the community once we finished all of that work, and I know there was a little bit of angst about that. So there were several that wanted those sandbags quickly, but we really felt like if we did all the work we needed to do on the outside levees, that would take care of everybody's internal problems. Those that remember flooding in '73. I think one of the things maybe don't remember quite as well is the fact that it was a tremendous rainfall, and if we had that kind of rainfall again, that's not to say we wouldn't have houses flood, although our pumping system's much improved since then. Luckily, in this case, we just didn't have that. I guess through the last couple of weeks, we pretty well finished up all that construction work. We finished that, I guess, last Thursday and Friday. Closing up the loose ends and so forth. That doesn't mean we didn't spend some time working this weekend. Since that time, the primary focus has been on what I call troubleshooting, which is taking care of the leaks under the gates and those types of things. And I know that's a lot of concern for the public, but I assure you, we are constantly watching those situations. We are addressing those that need addressing. And that's not to say we don't want to hear about problems, because we do. We do need that intelligence, but we are going to go out and investigate those, and we are going to address those issues as we find them. Certainly those that need addressing, but we're not alone out there. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has a team, their emergency operations team, that is touring the levees and the flood wall 24 hours a day. They make at least 2 trips through the city each day, and then again they have a crew that goes out at night and checks all of the levees and the gates again. And any of those issues that have come up, we've referred them specifically to them, and they've commented back to us about their lack of concern. Basically, I say their concerns, but so far it's just been lack of concerns, and we've noted to them the steps that we've taken, and they agree that all of those steps are the appropriate steps, and that everything's okay with that. We're going to continue to watch that. Yesterday, Carl and I met with our team, our liaison from the National Guard, and we set up the surveillance and response team effort. So, as we talked about all the way going back to day one, we're implementing a 24-hour surveillance program. The National Guard is taking responsibility for that, and they are patrolling. They're watching, of course, for people who are not authorized to be on the levees, making sure they're off the levees. But in addition to that, they're looking for any kind of breaches, any kind of leaks, any kinds of situations there. In addition to that, we've talked about the strategic locations for resources. Those have been put in place so that in the event there's a problem on a levee, they can respond very quickly to that and are fully prepared to do so. They've also placed their equipment in strategic locations so that can happen. So in the meantime, we simply just need to continue that diligence and watch those things. That's basically, I guess, in a nutshell, where we were and where we are today. It's going to be another few weeks of this type of activity, but we're not only hopeful, but I think we're fairly confident that we've got all the bases covered for the things that we know about today, and excuse me, we'll continue to watch those and respond to any kind of situations that we have. Laurie, I know I covered a lot of territory there. Is there anything you can think of that I missed? Yes, good point. Today, FEMA came in, and you must have had 25 people in that room at least. Yep. FEMA came in today for the purpose of going over the reimbursement policies and the documentation plan and all of those kinds of things, and answered questions not only from our staff but also from some of the neighboring communities who had some issues that they wanted to review. So we're fully prepared to move forward with that. No, we haven't gotten paid for all of our Gustav stuff, but we'll work with them in making sure that we take care of all the documentation requirements. And Art Jones was an old familiar face. Larry, you might remember Art. Art was here in Hurricane Andrew. He worked at that time for the governor's office of, I forget the name of it at that time, it was Homeland Security, I believe. But one of the things he mentioned that we're not, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not really in a position to reimburse yet for it, right? The permanent repairs? Yeah, they don't have the authorization to reimburse for permanent repairs, but he was noting that we should expect to see some, and we should obviously, we need to press for that kind of reimbursement. He was mentioning that in Baton Rouge, they're seeing the same thing, pavement popping up because water's getting underneath and so forth. And we'll probably see those kinds of things on some of our streets and so forth. So, it's another area that we're going to have to continue to work on. In addition to that, we've had some outpouring from the community who've wanted to do something for the National Guard, and we're trying to help them coordinate that, because sometimes that gets to be difficult simply because there's too many, there's so many people who want to help that getting that focused. And seeing Luke just reminded me, I need to mention Matthew 25. The group at Sacred Heart have been very generous in their help in helping us feed the crews, the National Guard crews. How long have they been? I know it's more than a week. It's about a week and a half or so that they've. Yeah. So a little over a week now that they've been helping with providing meals for that group, and that's been very beneficial to us. So we appreciate their help. And I will say the same thing that Paul mentioned earlier. I got several calls from several neighbors who offered men, material, and equipment, anything we need. So if we do have a circumstance that gets more difficult to handle than with the resources we have, we will have the ability to call on a lot of resources to help us out. And so far, things seem to be working out.